Welcome to Random but Memorable, a podcast from 1Password. I'm Anna, the producer behind the show.
I'm Sarah, one of the founders at 1Password.
I'm Rue, head of password manager development.
I'm Matt Davey, 1Password's chief experience officer.
And we're the hosts behind Random but Memorable. Together we offer up bi-weekly security advice, interview special guests from the cybersecurity community, and round up the latest security news in Watchtower Weekly. We may even play a silly game or two. So sit back and enjoy the show.
We're meeting each other in December, which I'm very excited about.
I cannot wait so that you and I can get in a car and drive 7 hours to a national park.
We're not driving for 7 hours. To drive one end of the country here to the other is 7 hours. I'm not sure I've ever driven for 7 hours.
The Matt and Rue road trip. That would be just incredible.
I want to come.
What a lead in to that offsite.
I think you should record it for the podcast.
We can at least climb Camelback, which is right near.
After I sent that to you, right, I looked it up. Apparently, it is the most dangerous mountain in the state.
Really?
I was going to say, if the internet calls it an easy walk, it's likely going to almost be the cause of your death.
Very true.
First picture on the link that I just sent, that looks intense. Just that very first image.
Oh my word. I think you could put Matt in some yoga gear. Get him doing a few stretches.
I did yoga the other day and it nearly killed me. No, I think what we should do is take a pair of those like yoga shorts that seems to be in every one of these pictures. We'll get to the top. I'll get one of those like big robe towels. You can change into the shorts there.
Yeah.
And then stand on one of these rocks.
I think I have the physique for it, I think is what you're saying. And I agree.
It's not something out of the ordinary for us, right? Because the last time I came to, I think it was, I came near you, we posed in the middle of the road for that shot.
Oh, yes. Still one of my favorites.
With me one leg up, laying on the floor in a pose.
You're painting a wonderful picture right now.
Yeah.
I don't know where it is. I don't have it that I know of.
I need to see this photo.
I don't know where it is now. I really don't.
I don't remember why that pose. There was something, wasn't it? Okay, I remember what it was. We had a coworker whose wife, he had a photo of his wife on a road in that exact position, sort of like sitting on the road, one leg straight out, the other leg bent at the knee, leaning back on one hand, face up to the sun.
It was like a proper influencer shot.
It was an influencer shot.
It was really well done. It was...
Can you just stop talking about this photo and actually send it to me?
I don't know where it is. We're talking like...
Yeah, I don't know where it is either.
We're talking more than 5 years ago, I think.
And so that's what happened. We took that picture, we printed it out, we replaced the picture of his spouse in the frame and left it on his desk. That's what we did. That's why now I remember. God.
It's a relic. It needs to go in the 1Password museum.
It is a relic. You're right. Yep.
Yeah, I don't have it. I think you must have taken it.
I probably did.
It's on his bedside table. He stares at it before he goes to bed every night.
It's on a hard drive in the closet next to me, just bit rotting.
Well, brilliant term.
Yeah.
I think it's on your bedside table.
So, before we get into the show properly, I wanted to mention the guest we have joining us a little later on, as I recently had the chance to catch up with Troy Bettencourt. Troy is global partner at IBM and head of IBM X-Force, and we got to break down IBM's industry-leading cost of a data breach report in great detail. It's an eye-opening chat where Troy reveals the true cost of data breach for businesses and corporations, both from a financial standpoint and a privacy and security perspective, so stay tuned for that.
Very nice.
Oh my god, I found it.
Oh, you did?
The photo.
I have found it. Do you know when that photo was?
2000?
It was 2017.
Vintage.
Okay, all right. Can you drop it, please, into the host channel?
Okay, I'm getting there.
You gotta drop it in here.
Gotta drop it in here, man. You gotta just drop it in, man.
Oh my god.
I don't think so.
Oh, yes. This is the meat and potatoes. Oh.
I can't believe I put that back in Slack.
God. Don't worry, it's only going to live for 90 days. God, it's just the best.
I was expecting a more sultry look on your face, Matt.
It was hot and bright.
It was hot.
You look quite happy to be in the middle of the road where you could be hit by a car.
We were safe about it.
We had to do. I do remember us having to move a couple of times and not quite getting the shot in time.
So maybe from the vault this week, is just the photo of Matt. We've unlocked this photo of Matt in the
I
vault.
have a million photos of Arizona.
It's right there.
Some ancient 1Password history.
Yep.
Very nice.
So, from the vault maybe, Kolide launched these mobile checks, which I thought were quite cool. So, essentially, it is self-remediation for devices that are not under MDM. So, if you don't have a device under MDM, essentially, it is a rogue device. It could be running any version of iOS. I'm glad Sarah's not here, because we can add some shade on on people running old versions of iOS. Sarah's going to see this screen very soon. Oh, she just sent us a message. I miss you all this morning.
Oh, we miss you too, Sarah.
That was weird. It was at the exact second that I was talking about her.
It was.
Her ears were burning.
So, essentially, if you don't want your staff using a particular app on a jailbroken device, for example, you can do a device check for that and basically say, for you to access this piece of software, we need to ensure that your device is not jailbroken or rooted. And I think that's great. I think there's a bunch of security benefits to doing so. And it's also self-remediation as well. So it's not like just an alert that pops up on your phone and is like, hey, so you can't do this right now and we're going to have to get back to you. It is, hey, go and turn this off or fix this and then you'll be okay. And
Wow.
Some of the checks are Android can require a lock screen, iOS can require a lock screen, and you can set version dates as well. And of course, like, is the device jailbroken or not? There's a bunch of other kind of checks that you can do, but yeah, I think these are really good.
Nice.
It's great.
That is the only thing that I have from the vault this week.
In the vault. Do you know what's creepy? Every time Rue says wow now, I just think he's AI Rue.
That's awesome.
Okay, shall we jump into some Watchtower Weekly? This is where we report on some recent security headlines and dive into these stories in a little bit more detail. So first up, we have a terrifying story, which you may have already heard about, because America's largest water utility has been hit by a cyber attack at the time of rising threats against US infrastructure. So American Water, great name, the largest water utility in the US, has recently disclosed that it has been hit by a cyber attack. American Water provides drinking water and wastewater services to more than 14 million people with regulated operations in 14 states. Rue, do you use American Water?
No, we do not.
Ah, so not all water in America is American water.
No, it's not.
The company said in a statement on its website that it had learned of unauthorized activity in our computer networks and systems in early October, which it determined to be the result of a cyber security incident. The company said that it had shut down its customer service portal and as a result its billing function until further notice, and will not charge any late fees or other fees related to billing as long as the system was down. It said it turned off the customer systems because it was intended to protect data, though it had added that it was too soon to know whether any customer information is at risk. So, as we've spoken about a number of times on this podcast lately, many of these recent hacks of major US companies have brought key online systems to a halt and created chaos for consumers and businesses. Not too long ago, we had the hack of United Health, which led to nationwide difficulty among patients needing filling prescriptions and healthcare professionals needing to be paid for services. We've seen that targeting US water infrastructure in particular, and increasing with some of the attacks linked to geopolitical rivals of the US. Taking out critical national infrastructure has become a top priority for foreign-linked cybercriminals. An EPA spokesman recently told CNBC all drinking water and wastewater systems are at risk, large and small, urban and rural. That's an alarming sentence to say. Without quantifying an exact number, the EPA said some have alarming cybersecurity vulnerabilities. Default passwords have not been updated, vulnerable single login setups, and former employees who had retained systems access. Some real rookie stuff there. So Adam Isles, head of security for practice of the Chertoff Group, recently told CNBC water is among the least mature in terms of security. The FBI warned Congress in February that Chinese hackers had penetrated deeply into the United States cyber infrastructure in an attempt to cause damage targeting water treatment plants, the electrical grid, transportation systems, and other critical infrastructure. American Water said it remains early in the investigation and currently believes that no water or wastewater facilities or operations have been impacted and water remains safe to drink. Well, that is terrifying, especially the assessment of kind of them as a company. It's basically like they have not taken cybersecurity seriously.
Yeah, that's not a good look. And also, I will always find it terrible when infrastructure is hit from a cyber attack point of view. I think that's just rough.
Yeah, I know we talk about this on the podcast a lot, but whenever infrastructure's involved, it feels like some sort of dystopian movie. 20 years ago, we would watch this movie and it would feel in the way distant future, but now stuff like this is actually happening.
Very true.
Yeah.
So, do either of you have a printer?
Oh, right by my knees, actually, as I record this show. Yeah. It's an HP. It's a color laser.
Ooh.
I do have a printer, but I'd love to find a printer that actually works and does what you want it to.
Oh, get a black and white, small little tiny laser.
Yeah, they last forever.
All of the issues start with color inkjet.
Yes.
Yes, and just anything that connects via Bluetooth.
Yep.
I've got a printer currently that just eats paper. It just, in order to print one sheet, it will take in like 3 at a time, and it's just irritating.
Ugh.
So, the change in how we work and kind of the things about working remotely and all of these have basically exposed new vulnerabilities and made printers a much bigger target, because essentially you're using home printers on your home network, and some of them can be a way to kind of navigate your network and getting to your work computer that's there. So this post is basically covering how the shift to hybrid work models has exposed these vulnerabilities in corporate print infrastructure, which is a really odd sentence, and heightened security risks at many organizations. So this is from Dark Reading. It's a really great post. So these risks include employees using insecure and unmanaged printers. Of course your printer at home is going to be unmanaged. Remote workers sending print jobs over public networks, inadequate user authentication, and print job release processes, exposing local spools, caches, and inconsistent patching practices. There we go. Either of your printers, are they connected to the network?
They are, yes.
They are, yeah. Mine is.
Oh. Mine is not. But it isn't through any sort of like, oh, I should definitely, not connect things to the network that don't need to be. It is because it was one of those little move up, move down dials on it. And my password is so long for the Wi-Fi that I was like, I can't be bothered to do this. And, the thing that you scan didn't work. So I agree that printers are terrible, basically.
Yeah.
So it would seem that a relatively low but steady volume of printer-related vulnerabilities have kind of exacerbated these issues. Recent examples of Windows vulnerabilities includes a remote code execution vulnerability in the Windows or Line printer daemon and a Windows printer spool elevation of privilege vulnerability. These threats are not Windows-specific, though. Recently, researchers discovered a set of potentially severe flaws in the Common Unix Printing System, CUPS, a legacy protocol used in Linux and Unix.
CUPS. It's been around forever.
So attackers, including nation-state actors, have sometimes abused printer software vulnerabilities to substantial effect in their campaigns. So it's no surprise that these trends have driven an increase in print-related data breaches. A recent study that Quocirca, that's not going to score highly on my name chart,
Nope.
conducted and found that 67% of respondents experienced a printer-related security incident in 2024. Small and mid-sized organizations fared worse, with 3/4, 74%, reporting a printer-related data loss incident. I'm sure they're not talking about like it printed out and just dropped behind the cabinet. I'm sure it's something else. So, 33% also pointed to unmanaged, employee-owned printers as a major security concern. 29% identified vulnerabilities in office printing environments as presenting a major risk. More than a quarter identified their biggest printer-related security challenge as protecting sensitive and confidential information. So, don't print it out. Casey Ellis, the founder of BugCrowd, said the takeaway for organizations is that print security needs to be a priority for decision makers. Printer and print servers are an excellent place to establish persistence and gain business intelligence on a target. Unfortunately, many organizations might be underestimating the risks or overlooking them altogether. And the shift to cloud hybrid print environments have made printer infrastructure even more of an invisible issue. Casey Ellis also notes, let's be real, the list of people who spend their days thinking about or even interacting with printers is a pretty small one. If your vulnerability management process allows out of sight, out of mind to dictate priority, it's easy to miss. The main takeaway is a general one, Ellis says. Organizations need to remain diligent about their asset inventory and overall attack surface and ensure that they have a process for evaluating the risk. The legacy nature of printer services environments is another issue because vulnerabilities can sometimes exist on them undetected for years. Often these printer environments lack the kind of monitoring tools that are available on other endpoint systems, making them a big target. And I think also, how many times have you actually updated that printer?
Ooh.
Like, trying to get software to these things is ridiculous too.
Yeah, I don't know when the last time was I did.
No, I don't think I ever have. So often, flaws are introduced into organizations' print infrastructure because print services are on by default and administrators are not aware of this, says Tom Boyer, the director of security at Automox. He notes, this means that the risk will go unseen for years and adversaries may use that to their advantage. They know often more about the target environment than the company themselves. This is an interesting one because it's not an easy solve. You know, we've got 1,400 people that all work from their own home. I'm sure a lot of them have printers. That's not like an IT person can just go, hey, throw it out the window.
I was going to say, would kicking it help?
Kicking never helps. I dropped one of those laser ink cartridges once. And, I wouldn't kick it.
I mean, sometimes it fixes the issue. I don't know about these security vulnerabilities.
No, it would hurt.
I think the advice here is just turn it off.
Don't kick your printer.
and don't kick your printer, yeah. It is fascinating, though, the change in how we work. This might have been a problem before, but it probably wasn't on a large surface. It's like IoT, but like an IoT device that everybody has and is familiar with.
People can have pretty old and ancient printers as well that probably run all sorts of awful software.
Very true. So, this next one, hackers take control of robot vacuums in multiple cities.
I know it's not funny, but also all I can picture is just people's apartments being even cleaner than they possibly thought they could be.
Yeah.
Yeah, there could have been an upside to this.
In my head, I read the headline and was like, what's really like the worst that they could do? And then I read the rest of the article and I was like, oh, humans are awful.
Yeah.
Yes, correct.
So, robot vacuums in multiple US cities were hacked in the space of a few days, with the attacker physically controlling them and yelling obscenities through their onboard speakers. So there you go, some random robot running around your house yelling insults at you. Oh,
yeah.
The affected robots were all Chinese-made EvoVax D-Bots X2S. The exact model that the ABC were able to hack into as proof of a critical security flaw. Minnesota lawyer Daniel Swenson was watching TV when his robot started to malfunction. It sounded like a broken up radio signal or something, he told the ABC. You could hear snippets of maybe a voice. Oh, that's even more terrifying than it working perfectly, isn't it?
Oh, it's so creepy.
That's awful.
Yeah.
Through the EVAX app, he saw that a stranger was accessing its live camera feed, and remote control feature. I think putting cameras on Hoovers, big no to me. Ours is, we bought the only one that is infrared, and I'm kind of okay with it doing, LiDAR and infrared, but anything else, no thank you. I don't need a video of this happening.
Yeah, just get a stupid one that likes to bump into walls and start eating your cables.
Yeah, it's fine. Anyway, so, dismissing it as some kind of glitch, Daniel reset his password, rebooted the robot, and sat back down on the couch beside his wife and 13-year-old son. Almost straight away, it began to move again. This time, there was no ambiguity of what was coming out of the speaker. A voice was yelling obscenities, loud and clear, right in front of his son. Daniel Swenson said, I got the impression it was a kid, maybe a teenager speaking. Maybe they were just jumping off from device to device, messing with families. The second time, he turned it off. Despite the slurs, Mr. Swenson was glad that the hackers had announced their presence so loudly, because it would have been worse, he said, if they had decided to quietly observe his family inside their home. I completely agree with that. The EcoVax X2 has a remote control feature that allows access to the device's camera. They could have peered through the robot's camera and in my head, it's just peering round the corner, just paused, just looking at people. Oh.
Like Wall-E, yeah.
Oof. I set mine to go off at 2 a.m, and if it goes off any other time, it would be very alarming. So this thing could have peered through his robot's camera and listened through the microphone. Why does it have a microphone? Oh. So it was a shock, Daniel said, and then it was almost like fear and disgust. And while his son didn't quite grasp the creepiness of the encounter, Daniel took no chances. He relegated the device to the garage and never switched it on again. Multiple people, all within the US, have reported similar hacking incidents within several days. And the same day that Daniel's device was hacked, a D-Bot X2 went rogue and chased its owner's dog around their Los Angeles home.
Yeesh.
The robot was being steered from afar with abusive comments coming through the speakers. So it is unclear how many of the company's devices were hacked in total. 6 months earlier, security researchers had attempted to notify EvoVax of a significant security flaw in its robot vacuums and the app that controls them. The most severe flaw was found in the Bluetooth connector, which allowed it complete access to the EvoVax X2 from over 100 meters away. The pin code system protecting the robot's video feed and the remote control feature was also known to be faulty, and the warning sound that is meant to play when the camera is being watched was able to be disabled from afar. These security issues could explain how hackers took control of multiple robots in separate locations and how they could have silently surveilled their victims once they'd gotten in. EcoVax said it would issue a security upgrade for owners of its X2 series in November. I do not like that one at all.
Nope.
And I think if you own an EvoVac, honestly, I would not wait until November. Put that thing in the bin.
Oh, yeah, I would just be terrified if this happened to me. Like, imagine if you were watching a horror movie and this thing just decided to go off on its own.
I mean, you would hear it coming. It would just be round the corner. I don't know what my impression of was there. Mine doesn't have a trumpet attached. That was purely optional.
Yeah, it's got a camera, a microphone, and a trumpet.
We stopped using ours long ago. First of all, it was like an old dumb one.
Same.
And also, it kept knocking into things, of course. Like, it bumps into things, but it was like moving. It would like hit a chair, and the chair would like scrape across the ground, and it would wake us up. And I was like, this is dumb. I'm not doing this anymore.
Yeah, we actually had a D-Bot, but we found it just did a terrible job, so just got rid of it.
Not needed.
Yeah, not worth it.
Right. Let's get straight into my chat with Troy Bettencourt. As I teased earlier, we get into the nitty-gritty of IBM's Cost of a Data Breach report. There are a bunch of interesting and unexpected figures and stats that we chat about and unpack from this year's report. So let's go ahead and drop it in here. Sitting down with me today is Troy Bettencourt. Troy is global partner at IBM and head of IBM X-Force. He has over a decade of supervisory experience in the field of digital forensics and incident response, as well as law enforcement and military spaces. Every year, IBM publishes an industry-leading Cost of a Data Breach report, and Troy is here today to talk about the 2024 report and dissect some of its important facts and findings. Troy, thank you so much for joining us today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm looking forward to chatting.
Yeah, this is always a fun time of year. I love this report. I find it fascinating. I love that IBM does this. Before we get into it too much, do you want to give us a little bit of background on you and some of the work that you've done in IBM and in the field of cybersecurity?
Certainly. So my career started about 20 years ago in cybersecurity in United States federal law enforcement. So I worked for an agency focused on cybercrime against U.S. government resources, mostly military, defense, etc. And there led some of the largest investigations we've had. The interest of not doxing myself, I won't drop any particular case names because we were targeted at sometimes by anonymous and other groups. So we'll try to stay off that radar. After about 9 years of federal cybercrime service across 2 different agencies, I moved into the private sector. with IBM for the last 2 years. Prior to that, with another security consultancy. My background is primarily on the incident response side, but my background is definitely on the blue side. I have really smart people on the red side. Been at IBM now 2 years. I took this role in March of this year as the head of X-Force. And as I mentioned, we're a security consultancy that pretty much brings the full spectrum of blue and red solutions.
Yeah, so almost everyone's heard of IBM at this point. I'd be surprised if there's people who have not. But it's possible that people don't know about the types of work and research that IBM does in the security sector. Can you talk about that just a little bit more?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. And IBM is huge. We're over 400,000 employees, a lot of different divisions in focus. But at the top level, IBM is really focused on three main areas in which they plan to lead: artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and hybrid cloud. That's at the IBM level, and that filters down to all of us. Really, two areas where IBM's really had security-focused research that's impactful to everyone is first, AI development. Some of those that might have a little gray or have been around a bit might remember when Big Blue beat Garry Kasparov at chess in the mid-90s. That was very early AI. IBM didn't divest from investments. They've continued investments over that time and really focused on secure and trusted AI solutions for business. AI itself, if you want to stitch ChatGPT or a similar offering onto something, is pretty easy, right? We've seen it in industry. We've seen it in academia. We've seen it in students in academia. All of that is easily done, but doing it in a secure manner, in a business-focused manner, requires a certain level of focus. And that's really where IBM is driving, especially because there's a study by the IBM Institute of Business Value, and they've determined that only 24% of Gen AI solutions right now are being secured. So if you think of what that means in the exposure, it's pretty massive. But then also quantum computing. IBM truly is recognized as a world leader in quantum computing. We've been doing it for quite some time. Recently, NIST just published 3 post-quantum encryption standards, sort of the next version. You've probably heard of the various RSA encryption and other encryption schemas. Those are all susceptible at some length from quantum computing attacks. So NIST has recently published 3 new post-quantum encryption standards. And evidence of IBM's contribution is that 2 of them were developed by IBM. And then the third one of the contributors or developer of that is now an IBM employee. So we really have a presence in the post-quantum computing security landscape. So those would be the 2 biggest. And then I could go on at length, but I don't think we have enough time.
Yeah, that's really cool. I love the contributions to the post-quantum computing security space. Like, that's obviously pretty near and dear to our heart here at 1Password, keeping a close eye on those types of things. I want to divert slightly and ask, where did the name X-Force come from? And do you have T-shirts for it? And is it indeed as cool as it sounds?
It's really cool. X-Force came from an acquisition of old ISS. If everyone remembers ISS, Atlanta-based company back in the day, IBM acquired them. And at the time, there was a small group of folks that came over from ISS, and typical dark room, bunch of people came up with an idea. And that's been the name. It's been really cool. You'll see out there that there's a Marvel Cinematic Universe play on that as well. So really messes up my Google alerts. We've had a really strong brand, especially on our offensive side. Our adversary simulation team is really considered either number 1 or at least top 3 of commercial offensive security teams in the world. So we're really proud of the brand. Nice.
That's awesome. That's very cool. All right, let's get into the cost of a data breach report. Can you start off giving us some background on how the research is conducted and the main purpose of the report?
Yeah, absolutely. I do want to preface it that we're IBM and we love acronyms. So I will try not to revert to acronyms, but it's a good chance. If I say CODB, I'm talking about the cost of data breach report. So we've been doing this report now this is the 19th year. And that alone gives a reader a sufficient amount of time to discern trends, right? A 19-year trend analysis is pretty cool. A big thing where it adds some differentiator is it's conducted by a third party, the Ponemon Institute, with whom we partner. And they survey companies that are not just IBM clients. And this is really key because a lot of the state of cybersecurity reports out there are all going to have their own aperture, as does ours. For example, if you're an MSSP and you're doing a survey or a study of your own clients, that's somehow going to be influenced. Maybe you only work with large enterprise or small business, or maybe you skew towards a sector, financial services or industrial. So it narrows that aperture. Product companies, again, there it's probably going to be focused on customers of their product. So that might, again, be skewed by industry or business vertical. And then there are some that are more technical. We have our threat intel index we put out each year. They might come from a security services practice like IBM, provide a lot of great technical data, but again, influenced by the client base. We skew large enterprise, for example. And then other reports that come from non-security providers, like maybe cyber insurance, also really, really great data, but again, skewed with an aperture. So the CODB, we feel, adds a certain layer that isn't there in most reports, but I'm not saying it's better than any of the others. A smart security practitioner should be taking all of these reports, understanding where their data comes from, the methodology behind them, and then really tailoring all of that to really be something that's meaningful for them.
Yeah, that's really cool. I love the focus on, as you said, like the aperture and then the scope of the report and understanding like who it's for and where people should be paying attention or how they should apply it. What are some of the most important findings? What's like your elevator list if you're in an elevator ride with someone to talk about this thing? 3
big ones. First, the impact of breaches is increasing. It's just continuing. And by impact, costs are part of it. This year was about a 10% year-over-year increase in cost. But the other is we've really started focusing on what's the business disruption, not just the cost itself, but the things that might be a little harder to really quantify. Some of it's qualitative or it's hard to get the hard numbers around it. 70% of the businesses that were surveyed this year reported significant disruption from their breach, and with recovery on average taking longer than 100 days.
Wow.
So if you start to think of that as normal impact to operations, when companies are starting to try to run lean operations, so they're staffing and resourcing right about to what their demand now is, and then you throw something like this on for 100 days of just overwhelming security teams, infrastructure teams, etc., it's pretty challenging. The next is the impact of AI-powered prevention. Right now, that's mostly in the form of security solutions that use AI. Think like EDR solutions, XDR solutions, SIEM, SOAR, that area. What that does is, on average, saves about $2.2 million on breach costs. And fundamentally, that comes down to what we refer to as mean time to identify or detect. How quick can you find out you're breached? And then mean time to respond or contain. How quickly can you get your hands around it and minimize future damage? If you can reduce those times, you reduce costs. And with the scale of telemetry nowadays, you need AI to do that. The human mind cannot digest the number of alerts coming out of any of these security solutions in a meaningful way.
That mean time to recovery is unbelievable. Like almost over a quarter of the year spent trying to recover from a breach is wild to me. That's a huge disruption.
It's insane, isn't it?
Wow.
Take everything else out of it. If you're a business, that's 100 days with a lack of laser focus on your objectives and your business operations. You're diverted focus and resources to responding or recovering from an incident.
Yeah. Wow.
And then one more, the data theft.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Huge one, right? Everyone's ransomware. Still important, still a risk, not minimizing it. But most of our report and most others have seen a decline in the use of actual ransomware. Think the malicious code that will ransom an organization, encrypt data. Several years back, you started to see like ransomware and data theft, and then you moved into other threat actor activities. But data theft still continuing to be a key objective. It's getting harder and harder to get ransomware to work impactfully with security tools getting better. But data theft is still pretty easy. A lot of large enterprises struggle to know where their data is across their disparate enterprise, especially hybrid if they're cloud and on-prem and multiple cloud providers. And the other is understanding the sensitivity and classification of that data across an enterprise, especially if you're now 30, 40 years into an IT operation. There's a lot of legacy debt there. There's a lot of stuff stuffed in little dusty corners. And that's really where we're seeing a lot of impact.
Yeah. Wow. I really expected you to say more about ransomware. I really did. Like, it just seems like it's the thing that's always in the news. I think it's really important, though, to sort of hit that point that, like, data theft is still one of the top 3 things that companies have to watch out for. Okay. Does the report get into causes of data breach? And, like, are there any new trends in the cause area?
Yeah, I don't think we've seen significant changes. We've seen continuation of trends. One, as I mentioned earlier, reducing the mean time to detect and respond, massive. That can save you up to $2 million a year just in breach costs by shortening that. The other, though, really is we keep seeing stolen credentials, whether that's through info stealers like Raccoon and some of the others, whether that's through compromised breaches, the large ones that we've had over the years, or maybe even targeting an employee at home that uses that remote device to log in and would have credentials maybe stored in a browser, let's say. That makes it really difficult because once the threat actor can leverage legitimate credentials, especially if they're domain administrator or a privileged account, it can be really difficult for a security team to discern what is legitimate activity versus illegitimate activity, which then slows response, which then increases cost, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's like if you have to break into a house, the easiest way is to steal the keys probably, right? Why go through figuring out how you're going to get through a window or a lock? If you can just steal the keys out of somebody's pocket and walk in, same thing for threat actors. It's the easiest way in, and they're all about minimal work for maximum financial achievement.
Yeah. Are there any notable differences in the cost and the frequency of data breaches across different industries? And like, what sectors do you think are the most at risk?
Yeah, I think we see one clear outlier. The most targeted industry with the highest cost is healthcare. It's 60% higher than the next closest market. And if you really think about it, that makes sense. Our own intel data, the COD, cost of the data breach data, competitor reports, etc., really show that threat actors are trying to target industries where disruption will have a significant impact. The goal is to get a ransom. So you've got to make pain felt by the victim. Healthcare is a really easy one. You're literally impacting people's lives. We've all heard the stories of hospitals that then had to shut down and reroute emergency services to other hospitals. And as you know, any extension in the time in an ambulance could have an impact on somebody living or dying. So that does make sense. The next closest markets in order are financial, industrial, and technology. And if you think about those markets, that aligns as well. Financial disruptions impact a lot of people, and there just so happens to be money in finance. Industrial, again, if you can think critical infrastructure type industrial, as well as large-scale manufacturing that could disrupt supply chains and national economies. And then technology. If you're a technology provider that services a large number of consumers or businesses and you can be disrupted, it's very impactful.
Yeah. It is gutting to hear that healthcare continues to be targeted. It seems like one of those things that would be off limits and that everyone would just sort of silently agree that this is not something we're going to go after. It's really disheartening to hear that that's not the case.
It really is. And there was one a couple of years ago. It was out of one of the Scandinavian countries, if I recall. To make it even worse, it was a mental health provider, and all the records were compromised, and the threat actors started reaching out to the patients individually and threatening to disclose their mental health treatment records to family members, employers, etc. And I just thought, how dirty is that? You know, is there no lower bar that they won't cross? And clearly it appears there's not.
Oh, gosh. Okay, let's talk about cost. So what's the average cost of a data breach in 2024? I realize that the report covers a lot of different sectors and industries and things of that nature, but I'd love to know sort of like average cost and sort of the distribution of costs around detection, response, and recovery.
Yeah, so the average cost is $4.88 million globally. The report's pretty extensive. As you know, when you look at it, we break it down by, I don't remember the total number of countries this year, but pretty extensively by country. So you can look if there's anything regional or impactful in the particular countries in which you operate. We also break it down pretty heavily by industry. But also we categorize the four main components this year contributing to cost. One is lost business cost. What are those costs that you're impacted by because your business can't continue to operate? So that could be disruption, revenue losses, system downtime, customer churn, reputational damage. This has remained relatively flat, a couple % increase this year. Detection and escalation, which is the traditional thing we think of when we talk about response, forensics, investigative activity, audit, crisis management, communication. These costs have risen about 33% since 2019. So definitely seeing some costs there. And that's really notable because cyber insurance generally has driven down response costs because they've tightened the rates at which they'll pay outside providers. So to have that significant of an increase while also seeing significant down pressures on costs really shows that the costs are still on an upward trajectory. Post-breach response, that is, think like staffing help desk, credit monitoring for victims, identity protection, new accounts, credit cards, all of that. They've increased about 26% since 2019. And the biggest jump is in notification, and that is emails and letters going outbound to consumer victims of the companies that were breached, regulatory compliance, things like that. They've jumped 104% since 2019. But I should note that they're only 7% of the total cost, so 100+% increase on a small number isn't huge. But I think it's a clear indicator that we're seeing a lot of more regulatory controls around data breaches. You go back to 2019, you didn't have a lot. I mean, between then and now, we have GDPR, CCPA, the Brazilian data privacy regime. New York has one now. You just start adding all of the others, and you can see why those costs have probably increased.
Yeah. Wow. You touched on this a little bit earlier, but like, what are the modern challenges facing organizations when it comes to protecting and navigating data breaches? You talked about AI actually helping here, which is wonderful. Are there other technology advancements that are making it easier or more difficult for even the most profitable corporations to deal with these breaches?
I mean, this could be an entire research or dissertation. I think there's a lot here. But to the second part, are technology advancements making it easier or more difficult? I think it's a bit of both, right? On one hand, security practitioners like myself and the folks that work with me have never had more powerful tools at our disposal. You know, I think back 20 years ago, what we had versus what we have now, what operating systems did as far as recording information and the data and the logging and the fidelity. It is insane what we have access to. But that brings the other problem into now you have too much data. How do you do anything with it? And that's really where the technology adds that value. That's where AI and machine learning and building in automated processes really make us more powerful and doesn't weaken us. But on the other hand, from the defense perspective, environments have become a lot more complex. 20 years ago, maybe you had an Active Directory controller, maybe you used LDAP for authentication, local accounts. Everything was really an enclave. There was no, other than your firewall, there was no exposure to the internet, right? So you had a really defined, limited perimeter that you could secure. As we moved to cloud, we moved to other platforms, to SaaS, now all of a sudden, everywhere on the internet is now part of your threat exposure and you have to defend it. And if it's a shared responsibility with maybe a SaaS provider or a cloud platform provider, now there's obligations on the company to manage it as well as their partners. All of that adds tons and tons of complexity and makes it harder to defend. So I think it's a little bit of both. Overall, the trends have been relatively similar. Unfortunately, most are upward, but there's not anything that's been hugely groundbreaking. And I think the real big thing is people will talk about the three-legged stool, people, process, and technology. And often we focus so much on the technology because it is such a huge force multiplier for us. But underinvestments in the people or immature processes really can hinder the ability to leverage the potential of that technology. And I don't want us to lose focus on those areas as well.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you brought that up because that has been a very common thread over a number of different folks that we've interviewed on the show talking about security and breaches and things like that, is that the human element is still a sort of like common denominator across all of these things that, like, as you said, if we don't invest there, it can undercut so many other investments in other aspects. And it's very easy to focus on the technology. It's very easy to go, oh my gosh, AI is going to fool everyone into thinking that their boss is calling them and that's going to divulge all the company's secrets. But you have to continue to help the people improve and treat that, as you said, as one very important leg of the three-legged stool.
Yeah, an analogy I like to use is like an F1 race car. You can buy the technology of an F1 race car, but if you don't train the driver and you don't have processes around like the pit crew and communication, you're not going to maximize that investment. And same thing in the security space. You really have to make sure you're leveling your investment across those three pillars according to your business risk appetite.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about some of the process part of the stool then. Like, what are some of the best practices for developing an effective incident response plan?
Yeah, I would say don't start with the incident response plan.
All right.
And that might sound weird coming from someone with that background, but first, a business impact analysis. What is the most important things in your business? And what would it take to have a minimum viable business if you had an incident? So people might think, well, I'm a manufacturing company. Clearly, the manufacturing floor is most important. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Maybe you're not a just-in-time manufacturer and you have enough in a warehouse to manage through those blips and you want to focus more on the logistics side, the distribution. That might be important. You definitely want to focus on Active Directory. It may not be sexy or exciting, but without Active Directory, most modern, or whatever your identity solution is, most modern enterprises can't function at all. It all shuts down. How do you communicate with your regulators, your incident response team, your outside counsel, your clients? Because email is based upon that, right? So what does it take to keep the business running? So after you figure out your key impacts, what the minimum viable business is, where does your data sit? Where do your assets sit? And what are they? It's hard to defend if you don't know what you have to defend. That's really important. So once you have all of that, let's talk an incident response plan, right? Whether that's through NIST or others that businesses may want to align to, and they should use those previous parts as inputs. The other thing is to be careful about just downloading an off-the-shelf one or having AI generate one for you, because they should be tailored to your business. Again, the business impact analysis, minimal viable business. Once you have it, practice, practice, practice. In our industry, we say you have 2 times to do a crisis simulation exercise. One you choose, one the threat actor chooses. And it's much better if you get to choose the timing than they do.
Yeah.
And lastly, an executive focus. The impact of a phenomenal technical response can be squandered with poor executive decision making. And what I mean by that is not to cast dispersion as executives, but there's a lot of decisions that need to be made in these critical incidents. And it doesn't matter how good the technical response is if the decision making hasn't been exercised, people don't know their roles, they haven't been trained, and they may make wrong decisions. And there's plenty out there in the press, I won't drop names, where you can look at very similar breaches and one's considered a wonderful response and one's considered pretty bad. And the underlying technical response was pretty equal. It was the front end decisioning that was made.
Yeah. When you talk about like executive training, does that even include things like how to respond to a ransomware attack, like whether or not to pay it, or like what the threshold is for paying out on something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So a little bit of a pitch here. Our cyber range function that I mentioned a little earlier, that's one of their primary focuses. They do focus on technical simulation, but really the bread and butter is we brought in over 17,000 clients, I think, in the last near decade to the cyber range in various functions, where we'll go through a simulated breach. It's almost always ransomware because that's what they ask for. And we go through everything from how does that escalate into the executive decision-making chain, public affairs, investor relations, regulatory compliance, law enforcement coordination, ransomware pay, do not pay, all of those things. Think of it as maybe a tabletop exercise on steroids. Lots of interaction. We have role players and actors involved, and we really try to bring a lot of pressure to make people realize what a real incident's like. Because again, better to train when you pick the training date than to exercise that when a threat actor picks it for you.
Yeah, for sure. That's neat. That's really neat. Okay, we've been talking a lot about businesses and corporations. Is there any advice for families and individuals? Does the report apply to individuals in this way?
I think at a high level, it's very tailored towards businesses, of course, because that's the surveyed group. But some of the things I talked about earlier for individuals, that as an individual, prioritize what's most important to you. Whatever that may be, it's probably going to be your children if you have children. It's probably going to be your finances, because most of us can't take a massive financial setback or an interruption in our income. And then from there, understand where that risk level is. You may really, really value your Instagram account. Maybe you use it for business or something. That should be included. Or if all you do is throw up some vacation photos and you don't care, deprioritize that and focus on some area you care. Know your assets and data. Where are you exposed? All those social media platforms. Do you use single sign-on? Do you say, yeah, I'll just authenticate with my Google account? Well, what does that mean in the end if your Google account is compromised, right? And that's hard for a lot of non-security focused individuals to understand those threads. And then fundamentals. For the most part, especially when you talk about individuals, we're opportunistic victims. We're not targets. Again, there are exceptions, but generally, we're not being targeted for who we are. We're being targeted because we're an easy mark. If you can just implement some base fundamentals using a password vault, for example, significantly reduces your threat exposure as an individual. Things like that. If you take those fundamental steps and just make it harder that they move on to somebody else, that might be enough as an individual.
Yeah. That's really cool. That's good advice. Okay, this has been really fun. Let's bring it home. Let's land it. Can you talk about where folks can go to learn more about you, IBM, the cost of the data breach report, anything else?
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, background in cybercrime law enforcement, foreign threat actors, etc. So LinkedIn is the way to get me. There's really not much in the way of social media otherwise. You got to keep a minimum profile. For IBM, tons of IBM websites. Start at IBM.com. But for the data breach, IBM.com/reports/data-breach will take you to the report. You can download it, really dig through. I really encourage everyone to start at the bottom, the methodology. Again, going back to that aperture, right? I don't want people to read through the report, make assumptions. It either never gets to the methodology or get there later. I think it's better to start there and then go to the top so you're in the right frame of mind to understand it.
Yeah, very, very nice. Awesome. Troy, thank you so much for joining us today. This was a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it. And we'll talk to you again next year.
Take care.
Okay, I think it's time for Ask One Password, our advice segment where you can ask Roo anything. This is where we answer your questions, whether it be security related or you just need some random life advice. Today, we have a message from Jean, who writes, "Hey guys, I heard you talking about notebooklm.google on the last episode. I checked it out and it was amazed at how you could paste any text into it and it will generate an audio show. Deep diving." I enjoy that phrase being used because they constantly say this is a deep dive into whatever text or whatever file you upload to it. So I thought it might be fun to have 1Password's updated privacy policy. Oh God, did we email this customer about our updated privacy policy and he made a podcast about it?
Yep. This is what has happened.
Okay.
Can I say, Gene, this is brilliant. Thank you very much. I haven't even heard it yet, but you're a legend. I wanted to give you the audio file so that you can listen to it and you can see what you think about this new AI notebook. Okay. Can I ask how long this is, first of all?
So it's 14 minutes.
Oh my
God. We're not going to listen to all of it. Ooh. Okay, I'll take it away. Here's the audio file.
All right. Let's dive right in, shall we?
Dive straight in.
Today, we're tackling digital security, but not cracking codes or anything like that. We're talking about a tool you probably use every other day, your password manager.
Yeah.
More specifically, 1Password.
Okay.
You trust them with your most sensitive data, but what do their privacy promises actually look like?
This is wild.
Oh,
this is wild.
Well, that's exactly what we're unlocking in this deep dive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Deep dive. There you go. Ding, ding.
It seems like every other day there's a new data breach, a new hack. It's always something in the news, right?
It's constant, yeah.
It's the main reason why using a password manager is so crucial these days.
For sure.
But it also kind of begs the question, right? Who's guarding the guards?
Mm-hmm.
How can we be really sure these tools are handling all our data responsibly? It's like that old saying, to catch a thief, you have to think like a thief.
Yeah.
But in this case, we're not trying to, catch a thief. We're just trying to understand one.
I'm hooked.
I am.
Or at least understand the people who are protecting us from them. And 1Password, they're our subject for today.
Yeah.
They just updated their privacy notice. It went into effect October 15th, 2024.
Okay.
They're a Canadian company based out of Toronto.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And they claim this update makes all their privacy practices, crystal clear.
Okay.
Well, we're about to find out how clear it really is. So
yeah.
We combed through the legalese, all that jargon.
All of it.
And we're here to break it down for you.
Yeah.
No legal dictionary required.
Exactly.
Okay, can we stop this? I dislike this massively because they're actually doing quite a good job.
I know! I'm so irritated. It's really good.
I think we need to retire.
Oh my God.
It's engaging. There's no awkward silences.
It's unbelievable.
They actually probably read their show notes, unlike you two.
Yeah. I don't appreciate it. I don't like it, and I also like it quite a bit. I don't like how much I was like, oh, this is really interesting. I wonder what they're going to say about us. Who cares? It's just an LLM.
It's ones and zeros.
God.
I was hanging on to their opinion. But I don't know whether this thing actually makes any opinions, because all it has as information is the text document that you've given it, which our privacy policy does not come to a conclusion of whether it's a good privacy policy or not, which it is. It's brilliant. But
and it's not written in the means of being entertainment, but more informative. So
yeah. Whoa. Okay. Well, Gene, that was brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gene.
So, we have a question from Diego, who this week asks, "Hey, Agony Aunt Roo, I'm a developer, and I'm always looking for tips on how I can use 1Password to work more securely. Wondering if you have any use cases that might help me.
I mean, Diego, I'm assuming because you are a developer and you are a 1Password user and you're writing into the 1Password podcast that you are already using all of our developer tools in terms of signing commits and saving your SSH keys and all of these things. If you are not, totally should. It's fantastic. The other thing you can do is head over to developer.1password.com. We have a whole host of wonderful documentation and integrations that you can use to build securely with 1Password, and it's fantastic. So we have the 1Password CLI, which lets you script things. We have shell plugins. You can, depending on the type of development you're doing, you could actually integrate 1Password into your infrastructure. So if you have a CI/CD set up somewhere that you want to have secrets access in, you can do so with 1Password automatically and don't have to have secrets stored in the cloud. It's very, very good. We also have integrations with VS Code so that you don't have to have plain text secrets in your code anymore. You can actually use 1Password to have those secrets integrated and stored securely and only accessed when needed. So there's just a ton of stuff here. Those are my main recommendations of the things to use as a developer with 1Password.
What a great answer.
Thank you.
So, if you have any questions or existential woes for Agony Aunt Roo, please send them to podcast@onepassword.com. Super easy. You can include your name or let us know if you would like to remain anonymous.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Okay, shall we finish our show with some password panic?
We should, and we should be quick about it because I have an interview in 7 minutes that I have to drop for.
Okay, so let's take it away with the jingle.
Password panic. Answer quick, recall the list, and only time will show how the competition in this edition of Password Panic will go.
Welcome to Password Panic. This is everyone's favourite fast-paced memory testing trivia game. Wow. Say that 20 times fast. So here we have to answer a number of general knowledge questions to create one long password. But that's not all. When answering, Roo and Matt must recite and remember every correct answer from the round in order before adding the new answer to the list. As this long list grows, we will begin to create a complex password. Whichever host recalls the most correct answers is crowned the winner. And last week, everyone lost their minds with all the answers starting with the letter F. So, of course, we have another letter to torture ourselves with today.
I did enjoy a good F word.
Let's go.
Okay, so what breakfast item is grid patterned and often topped with syrup?
Ding. Pancake.
No.
No, what? Ding. Waffle.
Yes, you are correct.
Waffle.
Grid patterned, Matt?
I don't know what you people do with your waffles.
You grid pattern your pancakes?
You've lost already.
If you put it in a griddle pan, you can.
Well, that was it for Password Panic. I win today. Thank you so much.
Sorry. I'm not taking that. It's not a pattern.
Okay.
Is it?
Okay.
It is a mould.
Oh, dear.
A waffle is 3D.
Semantics.
It's not a pattern. It's not like the grid is drawn on. It's moulded.
You are so pedantic.
Excellent. Well, anyway, let's keep going then.
It's not my fault that you word these wrong.
Let's go.
It's my fault.
Let's go.
Okay, number 2. What is the term for a person who reports misconduct or illegal activities within an organisation?
Ding.
Go for it, Roo.
Waffle whistleblower.
Very good. What term describes something amusingly odd or eccentric?
Oh, ding.
Go for it, Matt.
A waffle, whistleblower, whimsy.
That's not the word I'm looking for.
Is it whimsical and we can just give it to him because it's a slightly different form?
No, it's not.
It's not. But it's also correct.
What term describes something amusingly odd or eccentric? I mean, yeah,
It's
you have it.
whimsical.
Whimsy. I was looking for wacky, but I'll give you whimsy.
Yeah, whimsy is much better anyway. It's a better answer. Let's keep going.
Okay, correct, Matt. Next up. Number 4. Which large mammal is known as the largest animal on Earth?
Ding.
Roo.
Waffle whistleblower. Whimsical Whale.
Very good.
Whale.
Name the 80s English pop duo featuring George.
Ding.
Go for it, Matt.
Waffle. Whistleblower. Oh, God. Oh, whimsical. Whale. Wham.
Excellent. What verb means to move unsteadily from side to side?
Ding. Waffle, whistleblower, whimsical, whale, wham, wobble.
Oh, I like it. Very good. A wham wobble.
Oh, wobble. I was like, sway starts with an S.
Okay, name the 2023 film starring Timothée Chalamet as an iconic Roald Dahl children's character.
Oh, ding.
Go for it, Matt.
Waffle. Oh, God. Whistleblower. Whimsy. Whale. Wham. Wobble. Wonka.
I love the dramatic pauses you were leaving in between those.
Oh, it's just my brain.
Okay, next up. Which internet-based free encyclopedia can be edited by anyone worldwide?
Ding.
Ding.
Oh, Matt just beat you there, Roo.
Oh, here we go. I just did it. I literally just did it, and now my mind has gone blank.
It's not pancake, it's the other one.
Oh, waffle. Whistleblower. Whimsical. Whale. Wham. Wobble. Wonka. I forgot the question.
It's Roo's typing, putting you off.
Am I typing? Huh.
I mean, either that or you're playing a melody in your headphones.
Sorry, I'm keeping a list of all the words. Go ahead.
Oh, that's cheating.
No, I'm kidding. I'm not actually doing that.
Can I have the question again?
Which internet-based free encyclopedia can be edited?
Oh, Wikipedia.
I mean, that...
There we go.
Is that cheating?
I mean, Rue was writing them down.
I feel like this game has got disorderly.
I mean, that really is your fault, not ours.
What playful term describes an overconfident young person?
Ding. All right, this will be the last one, then I have to go. Waffle? Shoot. Darn it. Waffle, wibble, wobble, whale, whimsical,
No.
wham.
No.
Darn it. I don't know.
I mean, you've said them all, but in the wrong order, so...
I'm so sorry. I have to go. I have to go. I have an interview.
Oh, Rue. Oh, I wanted someone to say whippersnapper.
Oh, whippersnapper.
Yeah, much better.
All right.
All right.
Love you both.
Love you both.
Love you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you so much for tuning in this week. If you're enjoying the show, we'd love it if you could subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. You can also leave us a rating or review. It's one of the best ways to support Random But Memorable, and we always love reading your feedback. We're also a community-led podcast, so if you have any questions for us, topics, requests, or even guests you want to hear from, please send us an email at podcast@onepassword.com. We read all your comments and look forward to hearing from you. We hope you join us in the next episode for plenty more random moments in the world of cybersecurity.